Alright, so I've done some demon, cryptid, various other monster lists on the channel before, and Japan comes up a lot. There are just like endless amounts of creatures and demons, yokai as they're known in Japan. So we figured why not do an entire list just focusing on the many creatures of Japanese folklore. I'm your host James, and these are the top 10 unsettling creatures from Japan's dark history that you've never heard of. And we're kicking off this list with a very grotesque one, the Sagari. This is a type of yokai, a supernatural spirit or entity in Japanese folklore, sometimes demonic in nature. Pretty much everything on this list falls under the yokai umbrella. So a Sagari is basically a ghost horse, but not the type of boring, semi-translucent ghost we often think of in the West. Things are taken up a notch here. It's said that when horses die on wooded roads and are left to rot, their spirits can get caught in the trees as they rise from their bodies. This prevents them from fully passing into the afterlife, and bam, you have yourself a Sagari. By the way, if I pronounce anything wrong on this list, I'm very sorry. Let me know how it's actually pronounced down in the comments if you can. Anyway, these tree-bound spirits aren't going to do a whole lot to you, but they scare the hell out of travelers, dropping down from their tree and neighing and screaming into the night as people pass, kind of like an animatronic ghoul that pops out in a haunted house. Only here you're not really expecting to see one. Plus, a horse with its neck like wrapped around a tree is not something you're ever expecting to see, even in a haunted house. What a terrifying idea. Depictions of these things are just so freaky. It's just a head in this mangled mess hanging from a tree, like a demonic ornament or something. Yeah, really gnarly. If you are liking the videos so far, we got plenty more just like this, or better. So why not hit that subscribe button? It's totally free. Number 9, Rokurokubi. So most yokai are born the way they are. That's not the case for these ones though. These creatures begin life as normal human beings, but become Rokurokubi after being cursed. As to why they'd be cursed, there are many reasons. Maybe they did something bad, or in much more unfortunate cases, their husbands or fathers did something bad, and these unfortunate souls are the ones who take the brunt of the punishment. Rokurokubi are strictly female. So, what are these creatures? Well, during the day, they appear completely normal, but when night falls and they're asleep, their necks extend to incredible lengths and then float away from their bodies, operating independently. Their head is basically its own separate entity. As to what it does, it may attack small animals or just take pleasure in freaking people out. They also really enjoy licking up lamp oil. Oftentimes, a woman who's become one of these yokai is completely unaware of it, having no memory of their head's mischief the night before. Next up, we have Nure Onna. This yokai was likely a heavy inspiration from Orochimaru from Naruto. You could find these snake-like yokai in rivers and coasts around Kyushu. Once again, these are a type of yokai, but of the more harmful variety. So far, we've looked at creatures that are just freaky, but Nure Onna consume human flesh. They look like massive-sized snakes, but with the head of a woman with ghastly serpentine features. Usually, they'll have yellow eyes and a forked tongue. They also have long, matted black hair, always appearing to be soaking wet. Now, if you were strolling down the beach and saw a giant snake lady slithering towards you, you'd probably just turn around and then leave. But these creatures are deceptive. They'll often take the form of a normal woman, luring unsuspecting passersby to get close to them. Sometimes they'll act like they're in distress, holding what looks to be a baby, and when their prey gets close enough, they take on their true form, sinking their fangs into their target. Next on the list are the Noppera-Bō. Unsettling is the perfect word to describe them, as they aren't necessarily harmful, just terrifying to look at. What's more unsettling than a faceless specter? That's what these yokai are. In pretty much every way, they appear to be normal, everyday people. They're just missing a pair of eyes, a nose, and a mouth. These yokai they love their lives. They like playing goofs on people by scaring the crap out of them. They're often found in rural areas, mostly on the sides of roads, waiting to give hapless passersby a fright. They'll often have their backs turned to their victim and when the person gets too close, they'll turn around and bam, no face. Sometimes they'll actually appear to have a face and then make it disappear for dramatic effect. Noppera-Bō can also appear to be another person, making their face look like someone's friend or loved one. They just have a lot of fun being who they are. I like these guys. If I were one of them, I'd be behaving in the exact same way. Like, you think if I had the ability to make my face disappear, I wouldn't use that to make myself get a laugh? I mean, come on, you can't blame them. Number 6, Shirime. All right, you want unsettling? How about a yokai that has an eyeball where its anus should be? That would be unsettling to see on a human being, but the fact that it's a demonic spirit makes it even worse. Shirime literally translates to buttock's eye, so imagine that being the name of your kind. What's your heritage, Brenda? Oh, I'm actually a butt eye. Anyway, from a distance, these things look basically human, although in many tales they have no eyes, sometimes no facial features at all. Shirime don't cause any physical harm to their victims, just psychological trauma. A Shirime will usually wear a kimono, hanging out late at night on city streets. Then when a lone passerby approaches, they'll be like, hey, check this out. Then drop their robe, bend over, spread the cheeks, and oh Jesus, a big glowing eyeball where his butthole should be. Hilarious to read about, anyway. Probably not as hilarious if you saw it in real life. I'd probably never be the same after an encounter like that. Actually, I'd probably still laugh. I might be a little insane, but I'd be laughing in hysterics on my deathbed. Number 5, Tenome. These are really cool. So, ever seen Pan's Labyrinth? I think Guillermo del Toro had to have taken inspiration from this yokai for the Pale Man. And we all know how many bricks we dumped in our pants when that freaky monster showed up. A Tenome is an entity which appears to be an old man, only he has no eyes on his face anyway. Instead, they're on the palms of his hands. Tenome aren't just out to scare their victims either. They're incredibly dangerous, chasing after their human prey and eating them alive. They're said to be able to suck the meat right off a person's bones. They have a sharp sense of smell and can move at a decent clip. Some say that these yokai are the spirits of blind men who lost their lives in a violent manner and now roam graveyards in the dead of night as tortured, vengeful ghosts. Next on the list are Mokumokuren. Once again, these are the definition of unsettling, as they're really creepy, but in most legends they don't pose any physical threat. It's hard to describe exactly what a Mokumokuren is. Basically, when a shoji is old and unmaintained, shoji being paper sliding doors or windows, they can get holes in them, and it's said in Japanese mythology that these holes, if not fixed, can begin to house spirits, which appear in the form of eyes that fill up these holes. As to what these eyes do, not a whole lot other than stare at you menacingly, which is a truly unnerving idea. Just imagine waking up in the middle of the night, feeling as if something is watching you. There's no one else home, at least that's what you thought. Then you look over at your old, mangled sliding door to see little eyes peering at you, following you wherever you move. Number 3, Hyakume. These yokai aren't particularly dangerous, just really gnarly looking. A Hyakume is a horrific looking yokai, a large fleshy abomination covered in eyes. Lots of eye stuff on this list. It's a recurring theme amongst the many varieties of yokai. Hyakume translates to 100 eyes, which is a lot of eyes for one creature to have. These entities also look like mounds of melting skin. They never come out during the day, which is, I'm sure many are thankful for, as the sun is too harsh on their 100 eyes. They live in shadowy places like abandoned temples, sometimes guarding these types of places from thieves. They aren't aggressive by nature. They're shy and just prefer to be alone. If a person does happen to get a little too close though, why you'd want to, I don't know. But they can actually detach one of their eyes, having it fly over and land on the person, keeping an eye on them until they finally go away, literally. In at number 2, we have the Jorogumo. Alright, we've talked eyeball yokai, snake-like yokai, faceless yokai, yokai in the form of mangled horse heads and trees. That covers quite an array of fears, so here's one for all you arachnophobes out there. There's a species of spider called the Jorogumo. It's said that when these spiders live particularly long, 400 years to be exact, it grows in size and gains insane powers. Imagine a moonlit night, a beautiful woman appears out of nowhere, alluring and mesmerizing. You don't realize it at first, but she's a Jorogumo in human disguise. She uses her beauty to lure unsuspecting men, and when they least expect it, she reveals her true form, a gigantic, nightmarish spider. When she has her victim ensnared, she weaves a web so strong that her poor prey is trapped, unable to move a muscle, completely at the mercy of the monstrous creature. And then, slowly and painfully, the Jorogumo sinks her venomous fangs into her prey, the venom working its way through their veins, weakening them bit by bit. She makes her victim's death slow and excruciating, drawing out the pain for as long as possible. And finally, at number 1, we have Jikininki, which translates to human-eating ghosts. So yeah, the name kinda says it all. These are kind of along the same vein as the contemporary zombies we know and love today. These creatures don't look all that different from human beings at first glance anyway. They're incredibly ugly though, and have sharp fangs. They dwell in old abandoned temples on the outskirts of villages. They don't veer too far away from civilization though, as their food source is deceased humans, which they use their sharp teeth to peel the flesh off of. As to how these creatures come about, these are once again yokai who were born as normal people and were either cursed somehow or, for whatever reason, just took a liking to consuming human flesh, and the more they ate, the more they were corrupted until they changed, becoming one of these flesh-eating monsters. So that's the list, guys. Let me know if you want a part 2. There are tons of these yokai to discuss. With all that said, though, I've been your host, James, and I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, in the next video.